The death penalty is capital punishment which has been codified in human laws ever since the days of King Hammurabi of Babylon. Even though it has been a part of human society dating back to the founding of some of the earliest civilizations, the role the death penalty will play in our modern culture is a topic of heated debate. Despite the fact that the death penalty is a constitutional punishment, this does not correlate to it being a justifiable punishment. In effect, the death penalty can quite possibly take the life of an innocent person, thus destroying the existence of one who is not at fault for any wrongdoing. It is also an expensive punishment to deal out, and for what it costs, it's been proven to have little effect on the prevention of further brutalities. It also does not make logical sense to punish murderers with murder, because the point of punishment is to indicate that what a perpetrator did was wrong, not legitimize his actions by endowing them with the might of the legal system. Moreover, it is an unnecessary punishment, which ought to be done away with for the sake of practicality and humanity. Due to the presence of the death penalty in the American legal system, over 48 individuals since just 1975 have been mistakenly sentenced to death. Even Chairman Don Edwards of the House Judiciary Committee stated that no matter how careful courts are, the possibility of perjured testimony, mistaken honest testimony, and human error remain all too real. We have no way of judging how many innocent persons have been executed, but we can be certain that there were some. The fact that the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee has serious doubts about the legal system's ability to guarantee the guilty convicts on death row conveys the message that the death penalty is a flawed punishment. The irreversible and absolute nature of the death penalty requires that conclusive evidence be provided to prove a person's guilt. However, as such evidence cannot always be made available, people may be sentenced to death in an unjustified manner. Such accidental deaths not only cause irrevocable pain and suffering for the accused, but also for the family and friends of those put to death, as is the case of Walter McMillian, who claimed he was wrenched away from his family, from his children, and from his grandchildren, and the work that he loved, and was placed in an isolation cell, the size of a shoebox, with no sunlight, no companionship, and no work for nearly 6 years. Every minute of every day, he knew he was innocent. The death penalty is an excessively expensive punishment, and although many people argue that the death penalty is more fiscally conservative, thanks to the fact that those who suffer it are not housed in a government-operated prison for the remainder of their lives, this is indeed a fallacy. In truth, death penalty cases alone cost California taxpayers $137 million a year, whereas if those same trials had concerned lifetime incarceration, they would have cost only $11.5 million. Research also shows that California, which is currently experiencing massive budget shortfalls, could save $1 billion over the next 5 years if it were to replace the death penalty with life without parole. The death penalty cannot be expected to teach a lesson to possible felons while simultaneously serving as a perverse justification of their actions. Because if these convicts see that the government can take lives, then murder suddenly becomes a legitimate act, simply for the reason that it is employed by the government and sanctioned by the Supreme Court as constitutional. As the Italian philosopher Cesare Beccaria has stated, executions devalue human life and demonstrate that it is correct and appropriate to kill those who have gravely offended us. One could also argue, as Dr. James S. Liebman does, that unlike 18th century England's mandatory death penalty, which was carried out in properly deterrent fashion in the town square on market day, preceded by fiery sermonizing on the object lesson intended thereby, the late 20th century American death penalty seems designed to minimize deterrence. All in all, the death penalty may have been declared a legal punishment by the Supreme Court, but that does not render it a just punishment. It brings with it the possibility of destruction of innocent lives, costs which are passed on to the taxpayer, and a lack of any consolation that future crimes of rape or murder will not be committed. The death penalty is not a solution for violent crimes. In all reality, it is a major component of the problem. It is unwise of society to yearn for a day when murders won't be committed, as long as the government continues to sentence dozens of possibly innocent people to death every year. In order for violence to be curtailed and justice to be augmented, the death penalty must be done away with.